debuted. And ever since then, there have been reports running rampant of, there's dissension amongst CM Punk and, others in the locker room, specifically Hangman. That was the main kind of story, that there's a big, heated grudge or heated, there's some animosity between CM Punk and Hangman. And then, in the days following and weeks following, we've heard reports of there being multiple reports, some conflicting, some, similar, of there being turmoil in the AEW locker room. There's a divided locker room, quote unquote, between people who are in support of Punk and people who are against him. People are on the side of Hangman and people who are against Hangman and blah, blah, blah. And then we heard reports of, there was one report a few weeks ago about apparently Sammy Guevara and Kingston got into it backstage or some sort of altercation. There was some sort of beef, grudge between Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. You heard about that whole story. And there's all this rumor, speculation about how, it's the Wild Wild West in the locker room. And there was rumors of a locker room meeting held by Tony Khan and others. And, a lot of the word basically going around is Tony Khan is, losing control of his locker room, and, it's the inmates are running the asylum and all that. And just all this speculation, all this talk about there's being dissension, backstage dissension, and just, nobody likes each other in the locker room and all that kind of stuff, right? So then, of course, we have All Out, which took place last night, like I just said. Excellent pay-per-view, by the way. Excellent pay-per-view. It was another classic outing. Another great night for pro wrestling, and I even said that. But nobody's talking about, coming out of All Out, nobody's really talking so much about the pay-per-view, the matches, or everything that happened, or even, the plot twists, the surprises, the surprise Joker winning the casino ladder match, and then later in the main event, after the main event match, it was revealed to be MJF. MJF makes a big return to AEW for the first time in months. And CM Punk wins back the world title from Jon Moxley in the rematch. Excellent match, by the way. Excellent main event. Those two guys put on a classic match. So CM Punk is world champion once again. And of course, like I said again afterwards, the reveal of MJF as the Joker who won the casino ladder match. Those two are slated to clash at some point in the future for the AEW world title. And there was a number of other cool, very good things that happened on the show. We had the Acclaim and Swerve Hardwarian, an excellent AEW tag match. The crowd was really behind the Acclaim. The Trios champions, the inaugural Trios champions were crowned. We had Tony Storm won a 4-way to become the AEW interim women's world title while Thunder Rosa is out. There's a lot of cool things that happened. A lot of great matches. A lot of cool things happened. Unfortunately, nobody's talking about this. All everybody wants to talk about is what happened after the show. The post-media scrum. You all should know where I'm going with this. Post-media scrum, where CM Punk, in so many words, went off on everybody. And I happened to go back because, this was the talk of the town throughout most of the day. Earlier in the day, I happened to go and, because everybody was talking about CM Punk went off, CM Punk ranted, CM Punk said this, CM Punk said that. So I was curious, so I went and I watched this media scrum, or listened to it, and listened to the part of CM Punk. And he did indeed vent some frustrations that he clearly had. More specifically in regards to old former friend Cole Cabana. I guess one of the reporters was asking him about Cole Cabana or some shit like that. I don't know what the context of the question was, because they didn't really show that. They didn't really show the part where he was being questioned about it. But they showed CM Punk's reaction, and he basically went off saying, he was up for him. I want nothing to do with him. I was paying his bills or helping him pay his bills. Made a reference to Cole Cabana sharing a bank account with his mother or something like that. He says he hadn't been friends with him for years and years. And then he basically took shots at Hangman Page, saying Hangman Page just an empty-headed, I forget exactly what he called him, something, like an empty-headed, brain-dead idiot or something like that. He didn't say that, but he said something equivalent to it in a more, shall we say, vicious tone. Basically saying Hangman went into business for himself, of course referring to his promo from weeks ago. And then he made reference to the EVPs, the Executive Vice President's Office, referring to the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. He took shots at them. I'm guessing referring to, and from what I gathered, from what people are saying, Apparently, he was referring to the fact that he believes that the EVPs spread some misinformation about him to the media. I think that's what he was venting about or whatever. It really took shots at them, and most of his bile was directed towards them because he was being asked about it. And he pretty much kept that venom throughout the majority of his him being questioned. But then at the end, he kind of laid back a little bit. He actually did give props to John Moxley because he actually gave praise to John Moxley. He, in so many words, he somewhat gave praise to MJF a little bit. He did call him a prick though, and he basically said that he wants to try to elevate everybody in the locker room, so on and so forth. And he did make a remark about how he's old and he has to work with children, and Tony Khan has to make him work with pricks and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so this is pretty much the gist of it. These were his remarks, and this is pretty much what everybody is talking about in the IWC. Everybody's talking about this. Everybody's blowing this up. Everybody's making this like it's a big deal. On top of everything that we've heard for the last several weeks now. So here's my thoughts about this whole thing, because I've been asked here and there in comments what my thoughts or what my take is. So I'm going to give it to you right here in this video. So my thoughts and my take and my stance on it is this, and very simple. Now let me just say this in advance. Oh, excuse me. What I'm about to say here, you're not going to hear anybody else say this. You're not going to hear any other podcaster. Alright, sorry. So anyway, what I'm about to tell you, you're not going to hear this from literally anybody else right now in the IWC. Okay? You're not going to hear this from any other YouTube channel, no other wrestling content creator, none of these podcasters, none of these reporters, none of these reviewers, none of these dirt sheets or website owners, creators, whatever the case may be. You're not going to hear this from any content creator on any platform out here in the okay? Here's my stance. Very simple. This whole quote-unquote dissension and divided locker room and all this supposed stuff that's going on backstage in AEW, it is not that big a deal. Okay? I need you people to realize this. I need you people to realize that all this supposed tension and hostility backstage, quote unquote, I think personally, based on what I've seen, and I'm even more convinced now than I was, say, a week ago, I believe it's not nearly as serious as people are making it out. Think about this, folks. Think about what they were initially reporting with the CM Punk thing. They were initially reporting that, CM Punk, one of the reports that I heard was that CM Punk allegedly threatened to quit the company, or that he was going to walk out after that whole pipe bomb promo where he mentioned Hangman Page and he called Hangman Page a coward in retaliation to Hangman's promo against him from months ago. Now think about this for a minute. Why in the world? Think logically here. Why in the world would somebody who is as high as CM Punk is right now in AEW, in terms of his place and his status in the company, the dude is the fucking world champion. He was the world champion. Then he dropped it to Moxley, and then he just won it back. The dude was one of their top guys, easily one of their top guys. I guarantee you, he's one of the highest paid guys. He's one of their top sellers, I'm sure. The CM Punk shirt when he came last year, when CM Punk came back, that fucking CM Punk shirt was the hottest seller. Set the record for quickest sellout on ProWrestlingTees.com. Set the record for quickest sellers in the website's history. Okay, he's one of the top wrestlers, one of the top wrestlers in the world. All that shit. So what the fuck reason would he have to threaten to quit? What sense does that sound right? What sense does that make? Why in the what was somebody at the top of the spot in the company that he's currently in right now is CM Punk? What reason would he possibly have to threaten to quit when he's got everything? That doesn't even make sense. I do not believe that for one fucking second. I don't believe that report for one fucking second. I didn't believe it then. I definitely don't believe it now. Especially considering what's happened since. You had that whole squash match where John Moxley was running over CM Punk pretty much. CM Punk was selling his foot. Made it seem like he used his foot again, and then Moxley just won the 2 paradigm shifts and pinned him and won the world title or unified the titles, whatever. And then, everybody was saying at that point, oh, CM Punk, he got buried. Oh, he's getting punished by Tony Khan. Oh, this is his punishment for speaking.
Mic check, mic check.
With Punk and Tony Khan. And how long did that last? What happened to...
He working on it, I'm sure. I'm sure he's working on it. Is he? I don't know why the sound did that. I think I opened something else and it did that. So my apologies. Let me know if everything's okay now. Mic check good? All right, bet. Let's switch up the audio. Let's see. Come on, Skype.
One or all of the following ways. If you want to have your voice heard on this show, there are 2 ways of going about that. First way, get in line. Hit us up on the Constellation line, and Cam and I will talk to you live on air tonight.
We shall.
Hit us up at 347-202.
My mic's low now.
That is the call-in line. Once again, that is 347-202-0103. You can't call us live, but again, you want your voice heard on this show, you can drop us a voicemail. Voicemail gives you 3 unadulterated minutes to ask your questions, pose your comments, your unsolicited conspiracy theories, rant, rave, heap praise upon your hosts. Voicemail can be reached at 415-787-5229. Again, drop us a voicemail at 415-787-5229. You can also drop us an email. If you don't like voices and all that, good old-fashioned text. You're a man of the old King's English, Queen's English. Hit us up.
It's the king.
Email tip. Let us know in the subject of your email which segment, VIP or non-VIP, that you want your email read in. Drop us a line at eastcoastaudioshow@gmail.com. Again, drop us an
Otaku
email
loading
at
up the voicemail box is crazy.
eastcoastaudioshow@gmail.com. Currently, we have 3 non-VIP emails, all from Jabron. So we'll treat that as one big email, and they're spaced out. He dropped us an email at like 10 at night on last Wednesday, knowing the damn show was over and he wasn't going to get his questions asked. And then dropped us another one the next day, and then one this afternoon or this morning. So we're going to hear what Jabron got to say this week. Again, eastcoastaudioshow@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter. The show can be found at East Coast Cast, twitter.com/East Coast Cast.
UFC this weekend. It's a big football weekend, man. Texas, Alabama. Bunch of games at night. We're going to see if UFC gets mixed in.
At CEE Hawk. And speaking of CEE Hawk, watch along, listen along, chat along. Hit Cam's Twitch stream up at twitch.tv/Seahawk. Excuse me. Again, join us and throw your opinions in the chat. It's all kinds of. Hey, this thing was jumping before the show even started, so it's one of those weeks. I can't put my finger on.
I have no idea why there's so many people in the chat. I have no idea why.
Weeks of the year. And the last bashing of Get Adage. Find the show on Facebook. You can find us at facebook.com/PWTorch East Coast Cast, or just search East Coast Cast or PW Torch. You will see us among the Torch family of fan pages. So please give us a like, share us on your timeline. Tag your wrestling buddies in it. Spread the word that way. I think y'all know how it works by now. So,
yeah, I'll be here. I'll probably be at the crib, but I'll be here.
Not gonna lie, seeing the news about Pat leaving SmackDown for 4 months kind of hit hard. Yeah, he definitely, me coming back and watching kind of full-fledged. I haven't really paid attention to NXT, but that was a nice welcome back. Like, oh, man, this guy's really fun to listen to. Okay, without further ado, let's bring Cameron to the show. Cameron,
unmuted.
Hi guys.
Cameron,
what
happened on TV this week?
Yeah, fuck you. Oh man. Yeah. And the fun thing about stuff like this is, it's probably my fault you didn't get to see the presser live because I kept trying to log into the damn Stars app and figured out what I was doing wrong the next day. But me and Rose sat there and watched it, restarted the YouTube stream. And so we're just watching Punk it's a hard watch. And especially it's a hard watch when the people asking questions at the presser. And so you're imagining their faces as this is happening and if they're adjusting questions or not. And it's just, that was a lot. That was a lot to deal with.
The biggest happening in press right now. It's CM Punk and All Out pay-per-view scrum. Not the pay-per-view.
I don't know what. No, right. It's a presser. It's a press conference. It wasn't no fucking scrum. Nobody was.
Oh,
pointing.
Right.
It's not your fault.
Yeah,
but I'm just so sick of that word.
Said 800 fucking times.
I'm so sick of that word, and it's not again. If you sit everybody in a room, and the subject that's being questioned is literally sitting at a table, and they come out, at assigned times and take a certain amount of questions. Not a scrum. It's a press conference.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
And yeah, this is just the English major in me just being upset at the world for beating a word to death.
That's not even apt.
That's not even what it is.
But it's not really.
It's a weird way to make the people who are in the room feel like they're getting access that they wouldn't if they weren't in a certain position. Where it's no, this is almost required of you. What are we doing?
The only difference between a scrum and a press conference is one, you got time, and the other, hey guys, we got to do this. We got to wrap this thing up in 12 minutes. So get your questions in, and we're out. And everybody stands around, and it's all crowded. Not as you described, the guy at the table.
No, and J. Ray said it's not the world beating it. No, it's the world beating it to death because I'm talking about every Twitter personality, every Twitter account, every person who has an audio show or a podcast. I'm talking about them, not AEW. I'm talking about there's nothing wrong with correcting somebody who put you in position. That's fine.
No. Please tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't go around.
And not Travis, just people I don't like.
No.
But no. So to circle back around, after a very good All Out pay-per-view. We should say that first. CM Punk does a presser, and he's immediately just frustrated and upset and just visually disturbed. And the first thing he does is ask Wade's man, whose name escapes me, when's the last time he did a musical or something like that? Basically alluding to the fact that, he and Colt Cabana were friends. And Punk immediately starts to lash out about Colt Cabana and their money situation, which in turn is related to Colt Cabana being championed backstage by the Elite, who are, in CM Punk's words, talking bad about him behind his back and making bad business, and he doesn't like them. He doesn't think they're capable of running a company. He thinks that Adam Page went into business for herself, and he's just ultimately sick of them as people in charge and his coworkers and his people he shares a locker room with, and just went out of his way to kind of ignore the main event that just happened and just talked about his disdain for them and the way they do business. Nick Hausman is the name. Thank you, Slow Hands In. And Tony Khan was visually taken aback and distraught, and like people were getting on him for agreeing, and it's like, well, what else was he gonna do? Like, he
agreeing
kind of
to what?
Like just going along with what Punk was saying and nodding and smiling as it's going, and not really telling him to stop. And it's kind of like, well, he's also caught up in the moment. He's not combat sports guy. He's not confrontation guy, and like that's a tough spot for anybody to be in.
Yeah,
but,
it's one thing when the owner guy that's in Tony's position is there when Punk signs his Punk's first main event with the first pay-per-view with the company, but I don't know. It just seems like that should be separate. I just think of like KD or Curry or somebody sitting there doing, like, sometimes maybe Steve Kerr, the coach is there, but not like all the time, sitting literally in elbow range of you. And
that's
not
typically when you win the championship, and even then the coach is not right next to you 9 out of 10 times. Agreed.
Right.
So
it's just that part, and that's that's when they have these things. I mean, Tony's always front and center, mm-hmm. and that's not the issue. It's him being front and center with the talent and like buddy, and I think that's gonna have to stop. And I don't mean the aesthetic of the press conference. I mean the buddy nature.
Yeah.
That he fosters.
So let's tell the whole story. Well, at least let's tell the story up to right now before we dive into what should be adjusted. So this happens. Punk leaves. Now this part that we're going to talk about is not 100% confirmed, but it is the working idea of the situation. Okay, so Punk goes back to his locker room. It's him, Ace Steel, and Ace Steel's wife.
And Larry. Don't forget about the dog.
And the dog, Larry. So apparently the door is closed and locked. The Elite, in some form of Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Kenny Omega, Michael Nakazawa, Brandon, is it Coulter?
Don't ask me.
Okay, yeah, their man. And Christopher Daniels and one other person. Like 7 is the number, so whatever. The Elite are 3. Cutler and Nakazawa would make 5. Christopher Daniels would make 6, and there's one more person.
Okay.
Pat Buck, there we go. But they said, fuck it, let's go. Kenny Omega gets bit by Ace Steel.
His hair pulled.
Punk threw a chair at Nick Jackson, knocked Nick Jackson out. That jumped off.
Have these things changed, or is it the nature of these types of stories and things that just don't?
I haven't seen anybody come out and disagree with what we've said. Like as far as
so these are the
okay. So Cupid heard Punk through the first punch. Okay, so I've heard
that threw the punch.
Okay, yeah, Punk threw the punch,
and it was Ace Steel that threw the chair.
Yeah.
So those
there
were
you
flipped. Or not flipped, but whatever.
Thank you for the correction. Yeah, because Punk throwing the first punch is what leads to what we're going to get to. So yeah, no, J Ray, I've been corrected. It was not Matt Jackson who threw the first punch. From what we've heard, CM Punk threw the first punch. Yeah. So let's reestablish that, and then Ace threw the chair. Yes. Thank you guys.
Okay.
So okay.
You never know because these things.
For sure. But it does, from what we've heard, what the ramifications were, it does lead to that. So I think it was Sports Illustrated that first reported, followed by Fightful, that basically everybody on the Elite side has been or will be suspended. It's believed that as of right now, the sentiment is that without a strong apology from Punk and Ace Steel to the locker room, they are expected to be fired. More so, Ace Steel, who is absolutely more expendable than a CM Punk. But, there's a lot of money invested in CM Punk, and it's believed that if he can, put on a sincere apology and try to mend this thing, that he would just be suspended and not fired. Now, what I think is interesting is, like, don't you love the take back from the punishment or the forgiveness being the thing you know the person is not capable of?
What what you're saying, like?
Well, like when your mom says,
apologize or
yeah, when your mom says, okay, I won't ground you as long as you make sure that from now on you're home before 11, and you know your ass ain't gonna be home before 11.
Okay, yeah, I get you.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's like, okay, if he even does apologize, is it going to be genuine? Even if it's genuine, is it accepted just because how things are, because of his personality?
Yeah, so I don't think, like, that's the other thing. Like, I think a lot of people who don't have power are upset at someone who does, and I don't think that necessarily, like, I don't think they're going to take a vote in the locker room if the apology was considered sincere and if we're going to honor that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
like,
there's got to be some kind of consensus.
Riley Cooper finished the season, Trav.
No, yeah, he did.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's at the discretion of the person in charge 9 out of 10 times. I have not asked anybody I know over there how they feel because I'm not really concerned with how they feel. I think Amada makes a great point in the chat. It's very tiring. People fight. Man have to move past it, especially with money, like with the money. But like, while I hear that, while that makes perfect sense, like, exactly, slow hands in. Like, it's deeper than the fight, because the fight stems from you questioning everything that we stand for and everything that we've built. Like, an indictment on the elite is an indictment on Tony Khan.
Well, that's if that's the case, that's just the case. Chris in the chat says Punk's ego is way too big to apologize, for real, and I don't think it's his ego that would keep him from apologizing. I think it's the idea that he thinks he's right.
But like, that's ego. That's absolutely
like, okay,
ego. Like,
okay, I threw a punch. Like, okay, I shouldn't have done that. But like the whole like blowing up and making it an issue. I mean, maybe.
But you right. But you 43. Like, you gotta concede sometimes.
But
you know what I'm saying? Like,
demanding that 2 + 2 = 5. I'm not, just because I'm 42. I'm not just gonna be like, you know what? Yeah, I might, for the sake of my fucking sanity and standing there arguing with a person or on the internet arguing, like, I'm walking away from this. But you know, I mean, it was a little too simplistic. But
I agree with Henry Casey. Like, it did make it seem like Punk was in charge and TK was just that dude. Like, think about, like, ownership. Think about Jimmy Jones and Jerry Jones and Barry Switzer and Jerry Jones. Like, these things, like, passive aggression is the way to go about this. You know? That's how it works. Like, when that much money's on the line. Like, what's my man's name? J.S. Snowden wrote a very, like, damning piece on Punk. And while I'm somebody, admittedly, I like Wednesdays and 9 to 10 on Fridays and 7 to 11 on Sundays. Like the guy a lot. Don't really care for him a whole lot outside of that, right? But, like, there's some very interesting points about CM Punk seems to be this champion for truth and justice every time that it really seems to suit CM Punk. Like, he does not seem to have the same reaction and vitriol and stand on my soapbox when it's problems with other people who don't have the ability to speak up for themselves. Like, that voice of the voiceless stuff, I don't know if that ever really rang true. Like, who was in a better position than they would have been?
Well, it rang true in the moment, in fucking kayfabe.
Well, sure, but I mean, like, literally, even on camera, who was it better for outside of CM Punk? Like,
who the fuck should it be better for outside of
any of the people who ain't talking, Trav? Like, pick a name on the roster. Nobody else rose up because of that. And I'm not saying that that's echoing everything that the man feels in real life. What I'm saying is, even after that, every time he gets on a microphone and screams the ills of the world, I don't know who else has ever risen because of that. The ills of the world always seem to directly tie to what's going on with him.
Okay.
And so, like, I'm just like, I don't mind a wrestler being selfish. I just don't like people pretending what he does is about something bigger than him. Because it never seems to be about anything bigger than him.
Yeah, he's a fucking wrestler. I mean, he has some. Yeah.
Get yours.
And like,
but let's not lie. I'm not saying that you are lying about it, Travis. I hope I'm not making that point, or that we have different ideas of who he is and what he does. It's just like,
I've never even been like punked him. He's, as a wrestler, over the course, I really got introduced to him when he showed up in WWE. Knew him in ROH, but didn't really see him. I didn't go out of my way to watch him because he was in ROH. Like, he's fine. Like, as a wrestler, like, he's okay. He's not my favorite, but he does represent a part of the wrestling culture, or at least, again, in like 2010, 2013, part of the wrestling culture that was being neglected, and he had. But beyond that, and like J. Ray said, a lot of the reason you liked him was because he was an unapologetic asshole.
Yeah. Exactly.
And when you're an unapologetic asshole, and you're also right, like you're on the right side of history, or you're just correct about a thing, that also helps, and it makes people not fucking like you. And I don't think that's up for debate. I don't think, he's. I think he's very aware of his polarizing personality and plays it up. And I would say this was part of it, but I don't think this was.
Yeah, I think even if
this was like gimmick or trying to sell tickets, if anything, it was the opposite.
Even with him being who he is, I bet if he could do it again, he'd pull back. Like, and I don't even mean like he would pull back now that he might be at risk of not having a job. I think if adrenaline's not going, 5 minutes after he says what he says, if he could have looked back at it and been like, that was probably a little heavy.
Sure.
No, and Amanda, I'm not saying like he shouldn't say fuck them. I'm not saying that. I mean, he was on that shit before any of that happened. That's my point. Like, he wasn't, unicorns and rainbows before that thing happened to him. What happened to him was bad. The infection stuff was bad. But he's not all of a sudden like a nice guy who's always good to his friends and makes sure they're taken care of and wants the world to be better because of that thing happened. He was who he was before that. He was who he was after that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not different. I'm certainly not saying WWE's not a bunch of liars. Like, we've established the things that they are, like what they're about. Now, to bring it up to today, when people were like, well, no, I don't, people were like, I'm surprised in him, and I couldn't believe he would do such a thing. Why? Why?
This was a very on-brand.
It's the most clear, this is exactly who I am, and you've known, and if something was going wrong, this is how I would react. It is as clear as day, and I almost feel bad for those people, but like, again, this is why just because somebody's under a different umbrella don't mean they different. Like, you working for a different company ain't gonna make you show up on time. You working for a different company, you're not gonna be nicer to your coworkers. Like, you are who you are, even if the environment changes. You can get a little better, you can get a little worse, but you typically are who you are, especially at the ripe age of 43. Ain't a whole lot of difference in soul searching.
Ultimately, this entire situation, however many months into it is, and has been, this is all on Tony Khan.
And we're gonna, and I'll tell you what, let's not even. avoid Tony for a second.
They're not all on.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying you're wrong, but before we get to Tony,
I'm just thinking about
let's talk about the other side of this. Let's talk about the Elite.
Oh yeah.
So like, I'm not saying they're like, okay, we talk about Punk and how like people are stunned and surprised that Punk has behaved in a certain way. I feel like the Elite are just kind of
Eliteing.
Yeah.
Doing what they've done since fucking PWG.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Like, whatever we think about, like, CM Punk, he's a pretty serious dude. You know what I mean? Like, he takes himself very seriously. Even if the way he does business isn't always to raise all ships, he's very serious about his business. And so, like, even him maybe not being a fan of the structure and politics of WWE, I can see him absolutely hating the way that the Elite go about their business. Like, I really can see him absolutely hating it. And guys, I can very much only go off of the last 3 years. Okay? So, if you're in the chat, like, I'm always good with being corrected. I'm always good with being schooled, right? But I remember, like, it might have been, like, the All In press conference with Matt and Nick just being, like, cagey and dismissive and really arrogant with the way that they talk to people, like that were in the press at the time. They are about their business, but do not seem to take themselves super seriously. Things are silly to them at points. And looking at how they've been booked, looking at how they've had things booked around them, seeing as how, a lot of, I think in a good way, a lot of TV and championships and long-term stories have evolved around them. Okay? Like, that's, and I think that's what it should be, but I can also see a guy like CM Punk saying, I don't think what you're presenting is as good as you think it does, and immediately be turned off like that. Like, somebody called him old school earlier, and I don't think Punk is old school in the way of, like...
Who called him? Somebody 19?
Well, actually, no, it wasn't in the chat. I'm sorry. It was somebody tweeting me just about him, and he's old school in the way that he handles business, not in front of everybody. Okay, cool, but I think that Punk is old school in the way of, the way I feel about you is the way I feel about you. I've decided what I think about you, and everything I do is going to be based off that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he changes his opinions on people a whole lot. Yeah, for better or for worse. Yeah. Like, I think Moxley's done amazing work in the last couple of years, not even rehabbing himself, but establishing he's something different than the zany Dean Ambrose. And that doesn't seem to have, like, changed CM Punk's opinion on him a whole lot. There are only 2 grizzled young vets, and one of them has a white eye right now. But yeah, absolutely, it makes sense that TV is affected more heavily by the Elite. But imagine you not liking somebody and everything being about them all the time. Like, yeah, that's gonna rub you the wrong way. And the idea, and I don't know this, but the idea that Punk thinks that they are a group of guys who are running around behind everybody's back, talking and sneak dissing. When grievances,
very believable.
It's very believable with the personalities that they present.
Well, with that and also history and things that are verifiable. And just they've been around and bigger than big stars at various levels. Yeah. For a long time. Yeah. Over a decade. and been all over the place and made lots of friends and certainly lots of enemies. And things get said, things get,
Yeah.
podcasts and footage and shit like that exists,
Mm.
and it's just never. I've never held it against them and why I didn't like their on air gimmick and matches and stuff like that. They're okay. They're fine.
Yeah.
They certainly pull off a lot of amazing stuff. It's just not my,
Not my style.
flavor thing.
Just like it's not your style. Yeah.
But I've never. It's not because I thought they were fucking catty little fucking high school kids that I heard about from way back and just threw out. Now that it's like a super big story, it's like, oh yeah, fucking Bucks and so 9-year-old girls and blow dolls and that kind of weird shit in Japan.
Yeah. Play Street Fighter. Wear funny outfits. He's that dude, right?
But the Bucks you would always hear, like, as far as, like, scuttlebutt and gossip beat bullshit.
And so when people with those type of personalities are all of a sudden put in charge to where, like, they basically there's only one person above them that can say what they can and can't do, and they kind of have like look, I know people over there who really like them. Mm-hmm. Who don't have the same personalities they do, but the Bucks are supportive of them and are good to them, and that's any friendship or any relationship with a manager. Yeah. Like, again, I hope what we're stressing is ain't no right and wrong in a disagreement of personalities. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just what it is. So yeah, it's because and especially in a situation where 90% of that roster never main evented a pay-per-view or even a team. So, like, if you're not a Daniel Bryan, if you're not, like, you looking up to the Bucks in a way, like, even if they're not, like, your cup of tea, there's people who got it out the mud like you did and are making it. Mm-hmm. And so, that means a lot to you, And it's also that, like, even when you look at it on air, even though a lot of TV centered around them, I think they got a lot of credibility by not making themselves the first tag team champs. I think regardless of their relationship with an FTR, I think letting FTR be...
It was a bit of a backlash. People were like, see, a year or so into it, people were like, the Bucks didn't do it, but, look where things are, and they should have been... Yeah, there was some of that.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see exactly what Tony Khan says tonight. Tony Khan said he's speaking on it tonight. And so, Nick Jackson being better than Matt Jackson, I don't see it. And I think that it's because if the Young Bucks have a certain style that they're classified by, I think Nick more encapsulates that style. And I think that's why people who are real fans of them put Nick so much higher above Matt. I'd be like, Matt be wrestling. So I like Matt better. But okay, I hear you. But I'm acknowledging the difference in how we feel, not quite Cupid. So I dig it. Well,
listen to this. Here's an idea for Tony Khan, or for tonight's Open. At Unprofessional tweeted, AEW should have a cold open tonight where Mox wakes up in a cold sweat next to Renee and says, "Whoa, that was a crazy dream." And when he pulls the sheets down, he's holding the world title, and then Renee congratulates him on retaining.
Not Dallas.
Sunday night.
Not Dallas. That's hilarious. Yeah. And I've seen like things like that going around about just scrap it. Trav, real quick, Tony Khan. My thing is that he can't be the fun boss no more. The fun boss days are dead. They died on Sunday.
Yep.
Like, you can still be Suge Knight all in the videos. Like Puff. You know what I'm saying? You can do that. But nah, it's fun boss time is dead because nobody's lasted as a fun boss. It's just not the nature of the beast. And you're a fun boss dealing with a bunch of men bigger than you, with egos bigger than yours. Like all due respect to Tony Khan. Yeah, you got it.
Every time, like when he talks about WWE or no, he was talking about somebody recently. Because it couldn't have been WWE, but he was like, we've got a lot more money than them. So, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we'll be able to outlast them. I don't remember what the context was. That's his callback. That's the only thing you have over these guys. And I don't even mean you need to be domineering personality, but you are, fun, like you said, it just comes down to fun boss days are over. You can't be everybody's homie. You can't be anybody's fucking homie.
Yeah.
I mean, for real.
And he started to do it, so I don't want to take all credit from him, but you need a few more people in the office, Jack. They should not be able to come directly to you with their problems and with their ideas. Like, there needs to be somebody between y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
so,
have to.
So the fact that this whole thing got as out of control as it got is ridiculous. Like, the fact I see Tony nodding along, and it's like, the fuck are you nodding for?
Yeah.
Why did you this ain't news to you, Tony, clearly. Yeah. So why did you let it get to this point? Why didn't you force these guys to and when you're the fucking homie, you can't do the last thing I want to do is to have to get between, mediate with friends. And get two people or two sets of people in my friend groups or various friend groups and get them to fucking chill or get along or fucking come back together. That sucks. But if I wasn't their friends, if I was some just outside mediator, you'd be like, hey, what happened? Yeah, well, you stop being an asshole and you just tell it like it is. But he can't do that because he wants to be everybody's friend. And it really just all stems or comes down to fun boss days are over.
And look, you got and let's not act like CM Punk and the Elite are the only ones who are showing signs that things need to change. You got Tony Storm winning the interim title and then turning her nose up at the idea that Thunder Rosa's injured. Like, so that's undermining what's going on.
Right.
You got MJF making his long-awaited return and nobody talking about it because CM Punk hijacked the presser. Right? So it's not just, like, it's deeper than just these two group of guys don't get along. Like, it's making it, and Britt Baker, been talking about the sandbag. Like, you got to get your ship right. Because it's making...
Yeah, this part of it isn't new. I think I've been personally on this show saying for months now, this kind of stuff has to change, and you just can't have people out there just talking crazy and not having any kind of repercussions. Like, like real shit drives business, but they don't even know how to harness the stuff when it happens, and I don't want a deluge of fucking real fucking problems that I gotta then try to turn into TV money.
Exactly.
Anyway,
so let's talk more about Max next week. Hopefully, we get a promo tonight, and we can really get into where they're going, where he's been, and what they want to do. We'll let Tony sort the rest out.
Now, is he going to have to get his shots in? Like,
again, it's messy for no reason, man. It's messy for no reason.
Fucking domino effect.
I'm trying to get that story, though, right? Like, I'm trying to wait till the right time. I'm trying to get that story right. Like, I'll tell you. I think I told you some stuff on Sunday. But we'll see. Anyway, and shout out to
that one. I think after I thought about it, I was like, man, that's such a good idea because it's a big star, recognizable name that ain't doing shit, or at least from our point of view, ain't doing shit in mainstream wrestling, and it would be like, oh, wow, oh yeah, let me see what this guy.
So shout out to Rick. All I got to say is shout out to Rick. I have nothing else to say. Shout out to Rick. It's my guy. Okay. Clash at the Castle happened, Travis.
It did.
Now, you weren't here, were you? No, I was watching football.
No, we only did.
We were, Solo Sikoa, baby. No Bloodline, no Paul Heyman. couldn't cash in because your man Tyson Fury put him in the dirt. It looks like
which I know
didn't
it's all
need it.
fun
Didn't
and
need it.
ha-has.
Didn't need it. Didn't need any of Tyson Fury.
Need it. You don't fucking play those kinds of games with. I don't care who he is. He was a fan in that instance.
Yeah.
And a fan punched out one of your fucking talents and then got in the ring and fucking had a 10-minute segment. Like,
yeah,
that
showed dapped everybody up. Didn't blame Roman for like all is fair in the match except the one guy who was doing something legal. Like, yeah, what Austin Theory was doing was perfectly legal, well within the rules. And somebody not involved at all had issue. But anyway.
Well, it's obviously involved. They just make it. It's one of those things that just it's a show. It just reminds.
Well, yeah,
you
but I mean, like,
show.
not when I say not involved, like it wasn't like him and Theory had a beef. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. So just disjointed. Like, what the fuck?
And so, but if that's what you're doing, you don't. And afterward, there's that long. Drew didn't win, but I think I never thought Drew was gonna win, but like it was good and it made him feel like a big deal. And okay, yeah, somebody might ask about that, but the rest of the show, Sheamus and Gunther smoked it. So good. Big, physical, hard hitting. You had two heels in a match that ended with the longer tenured heel getting the biggest ovation of his career in a loss. Loved it. Like, yeah, it was great. Had my man Vinci come back, reuniting Imperium. Great, like a small pop, but a great we're righting the ship moment. Right?
Who came back?
Eichner.
Oh, Fabian. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Women's six woman match was really good. I thought that like the end of it could have been better, but they all hit. What else was really good on that card? Like the card was good. I enjoyed that. I thought that Liv Morgan, Shayna Baszler was good, even though like Liv being that resourceful that fast, I think there's a way that it needs to be reacted to that's a bit stronger than, oh, she was gutsy and she gutted it out. Like, tell that story of her not supposed to be able to win that and winning it in that way. So I thought the commentary could have been a bit stronger on that. I also thought like
I think that whole feud has just been such a.
It didn't have a shot at being great. It didn't have a shot at being great.
It had all the shots. It was 100% chance that Shayna Baszler was going to come out of the other side looking like a fucking chump.
Yeah.
And she does, no matter what. She couldn't beat Liv Morgan after beating on her arm for 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so, and of course, Seth Rollins is just solidifying. And shout out to Riddle, too. I want to make sure Riddle absolutely held up his end. But Seth Rollins is just establishing himself as a generational wrestler.
What do you think of the finish? Not the actual finish, the sequence or anything, but Seth winning clean.
Yeah.
Not only clean, but like with emphatic. And how can this not be the end of the feud?
I mean, because I hate that man. Like, it's not, I don't respect you for beating me and I want to move on. I hate you. Like, what he said was crazy.
At some point,
he was just talking crazy about that man 5 days before. Yeah, shout out to the ring gear. Shout out to the Elton John ring gear. But no, Seth is just like, I hate that the tribalism exists to the level of if you don't do all the moves that Will Ospreay does, you're not as good as Will Ospreay. Like, I hate that people feel like they really, actually in real life, have to choose sides between the two of them. I hate that. Because, like, I get my jokes off, but I've said over the last, like, month, 2 months, like, oh, Ospreay's really, really good. Like, I see what he's doing, and this is really good. Seth Rollins is producing an emotional reaction that very few people ever have. Like,
certainly in the modern,
in the modern times, who produces that reaction? I'd say Kenny Omega. I would say
Is
that,
that
Trav,
are they
because
emotionally invested or are they like cultishly invested?
that's
like,
not Kenny. It's not my tribe because I'm still new to it. But when you look at the time that he was gone, people clamored for him to come. They love him. They love him.
Okay. Okay.
I'd say him. I would say I think Moxley has that. I think Daniel Bryan has that. Of course, Roman Reigns has that. But there are so few people that just have you locked in like that. I play a part in that tribalism. So what? How about that, Darrell? So what? But I'm like very open. Like, it's jokes. Like, I'm going to watch you and appreciate what you do. I'm not going to tune you out because you work somewhere else. But yeah, Seth, it just has a command. Huh?
Tribalism.
Oh,
I'm going to pretend that says tribalism.
I absolutely have a part in that.
Go there.
Hey, yo. But no, I don't be paying no attention to Darrell. Anyway, yeah, I think that just Seth's command of the room, so few people have that. And he is absolutely smoking this. He's just on this generational run over the last, I'd say, 2 years. That is just so good. And Seth has reached don't need a belt level. If he never had another world title, it wouldn't matter. I think it matters to him. It absolutely matters to his character, but that is in no way going to affect his legacy. Like, I remember when Jericho got there in WWE, probably like that, troglodyte era Jericho never needed another world title. You were set. Shawn Michaels, after that last one, just to show he could still do it.
Like, what? When was he a troglodyte?
Oh, when was he one? No. I'm saying when he was using the word.
Obsequious, gelatinous.
He was wilding.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, Seth is just there. I got my top 5 of the year is still Seth, Dax, Bianca, Roman. Who was my last one? Oh, Moxley. Yeah, Seth, Dax, Bianca, Roman, Moxley. Right now, I got Seth at 1, Dax at 2. They switched up over the weekend. Yeah, man. But yeah, just a really, really good pay-per-view headlined by, like, again, that Seth Riddle match is just perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, it was really well done, and I did not know, I wasn't sure Seth was going to win. I kind of thought Riddle had a bit of a chance because it's tough to get called a bitch ass, and you've been called out about your family on TV, and then Riddle's dealing with his own shit, and it is still Seth Rollins, so it's probably the right move. But and the fact that it was up in the air, like, oh, this is really one of those kind of matches that I think Roman and Drew got to that point sometime during the match where I was like, man, I think Drew might fucking take this.
Yeah.
And then when Solo came out, it was like, quiet.
And so,
like,
is this how they get Sammy away from the bloodline after a few weeks? Like, there ain't enough room for everybody? Or is Solo, even though he's with them now, is he the one that convinces Jay that he's cut out for more? Like, Roman's your cousin, but Jay's your big brother.
I think that's eventual, but and doesn't affect Sammy, because I think the Sammy stuff is going to come first. I think it's more. I don't think they're going to do the typical WWE Vince stuff, right? Where they would have Sammy get thrown out of the group instead of an emotional weeks-long saga of Owens on one shoulder and Roman on the other. Obviously, he's being used and abused by the one, and here comes this new guy who's getting all the fucking attention with his blonde hair and his family line and all that shit. But he still want to hang in there because that's my dog, and the whole tell that story instead of Sammy's a fool and keeps on keeping on trying to be in the group, and then they go, nah, we got our new guy, you're done, and then they beat him up or throw him out. But have him leave on his own after seeing, holy shit, this guy's my friend, and he wouldn't steer me wrong. These guys are clearly using me, and I'm getting beat up more for somebody else instead of,
I like Not Quite Cupid. That's a hell of a War Games. So like the Bloodline. Oh, shout out for the follow.
Is that
Cool
the
Black
next
Nerd.
time Roman wrestles?
Maybe. Taking his time. But that's a hell of a matchup. But Nathan Frazier, who's good, who's really good, I still think hasn't been introduced to the main roster. I don't know if there's enough time. The real money is in Seth and Riddle having to come to a truce, and Riddle being the fourth guy on that team. Already a bigger name. Can they coexist? Does Riddle do the right thing in the moment? Does Seth do the right thing in the moment? Now getting there is difficult, but so yeah, I'll admit this though, Trav. I didn't watch Worlds Collide until yesterday.
Okay.
Tight show, 5 matches. Ricochet and that damn Carmelo Hayes, a.k.a. the Heart Beige Kid. That boy is good. And you got Ricochet being able to do all the Ricochet stuff with somebody who can go with him. Man, that was good. So good. And that feud's still going because they were back at it last night. So that's going to probably continue. I think Ricochet will be probably dealing with NXT for a minute. I thought the Mandy Rose win was good. I thought the tag title match was good. Julius Creed going to be a star whenever they pull that card. The women's tag team match was just fine. Braun Breaker, Tyler Bate, as good as you thought it was going to be. Like, yeah, that was a good show. Good show. 5 matches, tight. I was surprised at Mandy's win, but that's really, and I was surprised that Pretty Deadly won, even though I think Pretty Deadly is a great team to chase. So yeah, I thought it was a good show. Did you get to watch any of it?
I only saw highlights.
Okay.
Were they the only? They're the ones with the.
It was them and Gallus.
I would say half shirts.
It was them, Gallus, Briggs and Jensen, and Diamond Mine. Briggs and Jensen eliminated first, Gallus second, Diamond Mine third.
So, but the pretty guys, Pretty Lethal, they were UK wrestlers, right?
They were UK, yeah. They were 2 UK teams originally. Yeah.
So were they the only UK folks?
No, Gallus was in it too.
Show.
Gallus was in it
not
too.
In the match, but to win the title.
To actually win on that card? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, because Doudrop and Nikki ASH lost.
But they wouldn't have counted.
But everybody was everybody who was on that card was also there on Tuesday. So they're all part of that roster now.
Okay.
Like Sakamura had a match with
Roxanne
Perez, Tyler Bate, and Braun Breaker took on Gallus with JD McDonough attacking Bate at the end. Everybody that was on that card was on that show.
That's going to be an interesting, set of TV going forward for the next month or so. Introducing in a lot of cases these folks from the UK to the NXT audience, to the American audience. Unfortunately, well, for me, none of them stand out. Like a Pretty Deadly. They're fine because they're the ones with those weird shirts, and they're okay. Gallus is all right, but nobody from the UK is like, oh shit, they're here. You know what? Tyler Bate, I guess, fits that for me. So that'll be interesting to watch him and see how they reintroduce him to the American audience. And all of them. That's something that I'm probably won't watch, but I listen and keep up with how they're being reintroduced and how they're acclimating to, NXT proper.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, anything else? I mean, there's obviously the two really big stories, but one big story, or the branching stories. Clash at the Castle, Worlds Collide.
It's about it.
Tony? Do you understand Tony Khan being upset that those two shows were put on the Labor Day weekend to counter program All Out, or is it just that's just
but it's the game. I understand, but it's the game. Yeah, Braun's back. We kind of that rumor was out there, and Braun came back.
Yeah,
went crazy, beat up all the tag teams.
Thank you for reminding me of the most Vince McMahon thing Triple H has done since he's taken over. What the fuck was that?
Well,
what in the absolute fuck was that? You got your four, ostensibly, I mean, not even, that was the idea, was to crown a number one contender or whatever. So you got your four top contenders, and they all, teams, and they all get beat up by one fucking guy. Mm-hmm. What a bunch of bullshit. Come on. Fuck Braun Strowman, but fuck that booking. What a terrible way to bring him back. Maybe good for him and that stupid fucking mindless, what Punk say, stupid, damn it, what did he call Paige? Dead-eyed, brainless fuck or whatever. These fucking Missourians or wherever the hell they were, Kansas City, damn it, I just wanted Braun Strowman not to get a tap. Oh, hey, he's back. But he did get a really big reaction, and I was kind of like sitting there salty, like, they're going to fucking push him again. He's going to be all over fucking TV, slamming people around, and just, ugh.
Yeah.
Braun Strowman's back. Watch he beat Bobby Lashley for the U.S. title in 2 weeks.
I mean, hell, I want to see him and Gunther run through his ass. That's what I want to see, because he's going to SmackDown. He's going to SmackDown.
I am here for that.
Yeah. Braun yells and I fall asleep. They killing Braun in the chat, boy. Ooh. CYN in the mud. Yeah, CYN in the mud. CYN wasn't never going to work. Like, this is the thing. You can have stupid political beliefs, but not if you don't got no money behind it. Like, they were just a bunch of weirdos running shows.
Yeah,
and you can be like, what it teaches you is there's a lot of people who are weirdos that you don't know are weirdos until they're left to their own devices. And that's why most people are not left to their own devices. A lot of us are just meant to be employees.
This was the weirdos coming together deciding, let's make our fucking weirdo-ness.
Yeah, let's make being strange our personality. Point. Of course people will love that. Your audience is broke. What are you doing? Like, Cross left as soon as he could. Braun left as soon as he could. And, EC3, man, you feel for the guy. Because, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and none of this is shade, I'm just really thinking about it. 25 years ago, he would have had a 10-year career.
Yeah, him and LA Knight are like, God damn it, why isn't it 1993?
Yeah, man.
Yep. So, all right, let's talk to some folks.
Holla at us, man.
What's on some folks' minds? Got an extra large queue. Really, look at Rich. He's listening in. We got an extra large queue, but nobody got their hand up. But Kylan and somebody in the 310. So let's. We always start with Kylan. So let's start with the 310 this week. 347-202-0103. Be like 310. Give us a call. Put your hand up. Press 1 on your keypad to let us know you want on. 310. Who's this and where you from?
What up? Hey guys, it's Tom. How you doing? Los
Hey,
Angeles,
Tom.
I'm calling or something.
How's it going?
Long time no here.
I know, man. It's been a while. I always tune in, but I don't always press the actual button now.
Yeah.
How you guys been?
You
Doing
know,
all right.
things are all right. Things are all right.
Things are exciting, certainly. What's on your mind?
Sorry guys, one sec. Oh,
Yeah.
can you guys still hear me? Sorry, I cut out for a second.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, cool. No, nothing. I was just, I've been thinking the last week, just like Triple H must be sitting there just loving this. I mean, he comes in, the guy, I mean, when you think about it, he comes in with arguably the lowest bar anyone's ever needed to clear, right? Like basically just don't book your wrestlers in the most outlandishly stupid ways imaginable over and over and over again. And he's doing a good job. And then meanwhile, AEW, I mean, this is fascinating. And what I actually heard you guys say earlier, which I'm a little worried about for them, right, is it's pretty hard to just flip that switch and go from being the employee-friendly boss to being the hard-nosed guy, right? Like, once you set the precedent of who you are, it's a little hard to go backwards. That's why, like, if you guys follow, like, the NFL or you follow, like, the NBA, you'll see a lot of these play honeymoon period, right? Because generally someone hires a player-friendly coach or they go to a player-friendly coach's team because they've just come from, like, an oppressive situation and there's this harmony and there's everything. But what ends up happening
Not the
after
oppression.
a while is that nothing lasts like that, right? There isn't any consistency. Eventually something's going to go wrong. And if that precedent has been, I mean, that press conference, I watched that. That was like, I read a lot of stories before I actually watched it, but when I sat down and watched it, that was wild. Anyone that's even beginning to think like this is part of the storyline, not anything. Like
those
Khan
fucking people.
There,
those people make me sick.
They dumb. Like Tony Khan, if this is an act, like his facial expressions, he should win an Academy Award.
I'm saying, right?
Like his reactions in the moment, like just sitting there watching Punk do that, like I and the craziest part about it is that I was mad about it. So it's like you have this thing. I'm pretty sure what Punk
I think it's
was
more
like mad about.
Well, Tom, I think it's more. And instead, he went out there and cut this like promo that got the. I mean, the crowd was with him. I mean, that's. So I think it's more. He didn't say, "I Punk this, that, and the third." A thing you can point at. I mean, the workers' rights. I don't think that line specifically. I guess if he's alluding to the tweet Punk made about Naomi and Sasha Banks, but he wasn't. I think the tone of that promo is what he was mad about. Like, and that's a bigger deal in some cases than going out there and being blatant and point something that, Tom 2, 3, 4 months later can go back and be like, what was the problem with that promo? Well, if the promo wasn't supposed to go like that, then
what?
And it's like, well, why didn't Punk respond in the moment? So he's supposed to respond with unprofessional behavior with more unprofessionalism. And
well, I think why he didn't respond in the moment, when I was watching that press conference, what I was trying to read between the lines of, right? Because sometimes when someone's stance makes so little sense, like it makes so little sense that Page goes into business for himself in a promo like you're talking about, and Punk 3.5 months later shows his anger in this extreme of a fashion. What I get the sense of, and I do kind of understand why he's so mad about this, there's a bunch of stuff being leaked internally about him that is making him look bad publicly. And he did allude to that fact, right? But the reality is just you need to respond to that. You can talk about it publicly, but to talk about it the way he did, it's one of those things, and I'm sure you guys have friends like this, or you've dealt with people like this before. But it's just that
person
who insult someone for being a certain way while doing the exact thing that they're talking about hating.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, those are the most difficult people to deal with when it's like someone's just trash talking someone or shitting on someone about something that they're literally doing in that exact moment, and they're so
oblivious.
They're so unable to like take a step back from a situation that they can't even see that. And so now you're in a situation. I mean, I've talked to a couple friends about like AEW the last couple weeks, right? Because I think the reality is that AEW had their like honeymoon phase, and everyone wanted them to succeed. And now you have Triple H coming in, and people want WWE to do well, and they're gonna. The way the internet works is how it works. People are gonna say, "Oh, AEW's gonna die," blah blah blah. And I wasn't buying that even in the slightest sense, right? Like companies have their growing pains. Companies go through shit. I don't by any means think AEW is gonna die at all. But what this does is that if you are TBS or TNT, right, and you're about to hand these guys, right, a contract that, in my opinion, is the most important contract they're going to sign, because it's the one that will potentially start getting close to, at least putting them in the same realm as the WWE. When you look at the WWE, yeah, you have Vince McMahon, and that's an effed up like situation, but at least you're getting a show every single week. So literally, the United States could be bombed if like Vince McMahon would have put a show on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, so AEW, you're gonna hand $700, $800 million to a company that's like, airing out its laundry in public like this. It's just not a good look at a time where they do need to look good. And I don't want to put this on Tony Khan, because I think the reality is that the reason that you have this situation where wrestlers are able to run wild is that in the WWE, people were incredibly frustrated by the fact that every single thing they did was controlled. They couldn't even start a successful YouTube channel by themselves without the WWE.
Or an unsuccessful YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Or an unsuccessful.
Like, I just want to start a shitty fucking Twitch. Goddamn.
And so, right. And so Tony Khan went the complete other direction with it, right?
Yeah.
And you're seeing some of the...
Which was a bad idea in real time. I think there was a decent amount of people going, this is, I mean, shit, not the most brought up name on the show, but fucking Jim Cornette was like, he dubs them all elite friends, or all friends wrestling or whatever. Like, yeah, they just hired a bunch of their buddies, but there's an idea of, well, that's kind of how, things work. It's hard. My man gets put on, I'm like, hey, if I'm good enough, and I've been struggling, help me out. Let's reach that hand back kind of thing. But they took it to an extreme, and hiring just people that should not have been on national TV at all, and they were being featured, not just on TV, but being pushed and featured. And that took a while. It was like the first year of that. And the excuse was they don't have, they're trying to, they don't have, besides Jericho, like mainstream names, folks that people are going to know. But yeah, things are different now, and standards have changed, and that honeymoon, is over, certainly.
I think this is going to balance out, though, because right now what happens, right, like WWE was basically not an option for a lot of these guys that actually cared about wrestling. Like in the current WWE, there's no chance Daniel Bryan's walking away from that, etc., right? And so what you had was AEW went from exactly what you're talking about, having guys that had no business on TV, to having like one of the more loaded rosters in the history of wrestling, and it's actually damaged the product, right? Like the storylines are inconsistent. There's not a lot of great builds. The pay-per-views are 5.5 hours long. There's 11 trios matches and 75 belts.
Not 11 trios matches.
You feel like they're there for a reason. What I expect to happen is that inevitably some of these guys are now going to return to the WWE, and that's important because WWE needs guys, right? WWE is barren of talent, and they're having to rebuild some of the talent that was heavily damaged, but they still don't have enough. Some of these guys need to go back to WWE that never should have left if it wasn't for Vince. Once that happens and the talent balances out, and AEW says, these are our guys, these are our long-term contracts, I do think some of these storylines and things like that, and cram pay-per-views and million trios matches, they'll eventually balance out because I think AEW is a solid brand and we'll be able to figure this out. Nevertheless, right now, you cannot deny that they pulled out their ace in the hole, MMJF, which was immediately overshadowed by Punk, who beat their super hot champion clean, dead in the middle of the ring, trashing their entire roster and owner in a post-media scrum followed by a brawl. I mean, this is a fucked up situation that is going to be extremely damaging for them to get out of. It's going to take them months to get out of this. And they pulled, unfortunately, the ace in the hole that they had that would have helped them. If they had not brought MMJF last night, you would have had a way to get out of this. But instead, it's this is as big of a mess as I've ever seen publicly in wrestling. And now they have to put on a live show in 15 minutes. It's much. But after that, I mean, they're not going to have.
Well, I think it's a must-see first 15 minutes because I think Kelly's going to open the show. After that, it's AEW, it's Dynamite. I think probably as usual. So that's why we're going to try to wrap up as on time as possible. So, anything else, time before we move on to the next caller?
Nah, I mean, it should be interesting. It's good. I feel like this is the first time in years where this is real competition. I think actually, I think WWE and AEW, they're both well funded. AEW hopefully signs a big television contract. I would hope everyone is not dumb enough to be rooting against AEW. We are much better off. I mean, we just all sat through 20 years of not having competition, and I don't think any of us were having that much fun. So no one should be rooting against AEW, and I do hope that they figure it out, but they are not in an enviable situation right now.
All right, Tom, it's good talking to you. Don't be a stranger.
Cool. See you guys.
All right. Let's keep it moving, and let's go to, all right, let's see what Kylan's got. Kylan, what you got for us?
What up?
Besides the crazy echo.
Not much, Trav. The context that you were looking for earlier is Tony was referring to how Jim Crockett Promotions got put out of business when Vince would constantly
counter-program them.
Opposite
Yep.
theirs.
That was it. Thank you. Yeah, he said, we got a lot more money than Jim Crockett Promotions.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Hold up, hey, real quick, not to cut y'all off.
Detrimental.
Just so you know, Otaku stated as of 20 minutes ago he is boycotting WWE. If I've ever seen a deflection in my life, but yeah, he cooking right now.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. Go ahead, Kylan.
My question for this week is a scenario for you guys. If Kenny Omega and Young Bucks go to WWE, how will they be used, and who will replace their positions on the AEW card and their positions as executive vice presidents of AEW?
We didn't even talk about that part of it, their EVP status. Should they even have that status anymore? If all the backstage shenanigans are true, they're going to confront the guy and, bust up in his locker room. Even if you got swung on first, you still got to win it and initiated this whole thing. No, Kylan, they will not be in WWE. But if somehow they were or were to leave for whatever reason, they couldn't be easily replaced. So I might think they ain't shit, but they are integral to the company, at least right now in 2022. Their current current roster, even though it's much stronger than it was in 2019 and 2020, they're still a integral part of that roster and of that company. So, so no, they ain't going to WWE. Triple H is not going to fucking sign those two. I think Kenny Omega would have some chance.
Yeah, there was a time when they really, really wanted the Bucks. I do not know if what they've built, you have the Street Profits now. You have Otis and Gable now. You still have New Day. You're bringing the Viking Raiders around, and then in the pipeline, you got Diamond Mime. You got brawlers like Gallus down there. You got Trick and Mello, and so I don't know if like that's in the books like it was back when he did want them, and also I don't know if they would take a lesser role. You know what I mean? Like EVP don't mean you calling shots, but it does come with a certain amount of credibility, and also there's the fact that this thing is their baby in a way that it wasn't Cody's baby.
Right.
How you gonna say that man smells like damp? That is so rude. Oh my God.
We all immediately knew exactly what that sense would be. Who was next? All right, let's see what Rich got to say. Rich put his hand up. Rich, what's going on?
What up?
Hey. Not much. How are you guys?
Doing all right. I'm gonna bogart in on our live time, our free time, and you got a whole 2-3 hours tonight. But that's cool.
No. I'm just trying to do what I can to talk with my good friend, author, and raconteur Cameron Hawkins, while Travis keeps him away from me, because you guys don't know the internal workings of the East Coast cast and the politics I got to deal with every day.
Rich is wild, man. Rich, as we do some inside of baseball, we've been talking kind of off and on all day, just about things people have said and done. What's the most outrageous thing you've heard from somebody you have at least an inkling of respect for concerning all this? And you don't have to say who they are, but what's just something you've heard that you're just like, come on?
I heard that this was like the thing I've always stood on, which people got their feelings hurt, I guess, when I did it with Wade. Like, this isn't a CM Punk thing. This is a belief that, like, by getting rid of CM Punk, he's the evil witch, and we're going to go back to the Emerald City and everybody can lock arm in arm. And, like, it's very naive. Like I was like, y'all never worked anywhere before?
Yeah.
And I get it sometimes when people work for themselves, they can kind of project like, hey, this is how things go. But I think that, and then I think the other thing was, this is all a work, bro. And anytime that starts up, I'm like, y'all need to, you need to stop. You need to just like.
Anybody respectable, anybody with a blue check mark talking about work, I would immediately unsubscribe, unlike, unfollow. Man. Yeah. Again, I just don't think the people involved are good enough to pull something like this off.
Yeah.
If this was a work,
and it's even,
give me a break.
Like, if this was, or even though, like, I think to your question too, Cam, I think the other thing I saw from a lot of people I respect that I don't think they realize, like, the principles involved. Like, let's make money off of this. You're leaving money off the table. You make so much money. It's like, you got to realize that CM Punk's recalcitrant, the Young Bucks are passive aggressive, and Kenny Omega just wants to change the world.
Yeah.
So, like, no, none of that equals let's work together, brother. Like, I don't see a way forward to it. Like I said on Twitter, it's,
Michaels and Brett did it.
But listen, Michaels and Brett did it because Brett had a life-changing stroke that nearly killed him, and Shawn found Jesus. The Bucks already found Jesus, and they
made it in, 95, 96. '97 or whatever their really hot feud was.
But,
Personal
okay,
stuff.
I'll tell you the same thing I told Wade. There is no connective tissue that can keep that feud calm like there was when Shawn and Bret were feuding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
Tony Khan is supposed to be like. Man,
Exactly,
even
exactly.
Vince was instigating a lot of it. You know, there's a.
They're not clamoring for
And they
nobody's
still had
respect.
Sonny.
They're not trying to prove
Yeah.
to the man in
They-
charge what they're worth. Like that is not a motivating factor. Like
Right.
I don't.
Like
I
Vince's
have not
thing is
heard.
he's
It's just
the
real
ball-
quick,
the
Rich.
ball coach.
I have not heard
He kept him
anybody.
in line
Oh,
because
you got it.
of strength of personality. Sorry, but yeah, he just kept things in line because he was Vince McMahon and could command that kind of while at the same time needling and priding and playing them off of each other to make them
not
work
that they don't care,
harder.
but like I have yet to hear somebody, whether to me or in any type of like public space or in any podcast or anything, I have yet to hear anybody say how happy they were that Tony liked their match. I've not heard anybody say that in 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, does he sign the check?
Right.
Sure.
So
Do
he's
you need to
gonna say
keep him
how
happy?
awesome it
Sure.
was,
But there's not this internal
great.
idea of I want him to be proud of what I'm doing. It just doesn't exist. A lot of that has to do with age. Like, it's not like anybody's doing him wrong by that, but that's just not the sentiment. It's really not.
It's that thing, you know. You have people, people. Usually, it's boys and men that have fathers who, or authority figures, coaches, or officials that are higher than them, that don't give out compliments. They don't. So everything is. They don't. I'm proud of you, son. My dad told me he was proud of me one time. He told me I did a good job 3 times. Like, how do you know? Like, what? That's a thing you fucking got. Like, yeah, it happens so fucking, not often. It happens so little that, I remember them shits. And I think Vince is that dad that you just work for. You fucking hate him, but you want his approval. And Tony's the fucking guy bringing fucking orange slices and Capri Suns to the goddamn games, and you win, lose or draw, everybody gets snacks, and you did a good job. And that second at bat you had, champ, was really good. Everything's awesome, and everybody's match is awesome, and everybody's fucking that modern wrestling thing. Because Tony's a fan first, and it's very obvious.
Well, one of the things I thought about, and it actually was funny because I thought about it because I was reading your article, Cam. If you guys ever read, I think it was in the Ringer, in 2, ironically, the story of the guy who played Vigo in Ghostbusters.
I know
and
who you're talking
The reason I
about.
bring it up is because, the actor, he was in Die Hard, he was in all these other movies, but the guy who played Vigo was such a horrible human being that when he died, he didn't tell his daughter, which, if you read in the article, might have been the product of him assaulting his father's second wife, which is a whole mess. It's like a 40-page. He didn't tell her because she didn't tell him when their father died. So
Dang.
he had a neighbor tell her a month later with a letter that just said touche.
Wow. Jesus.
To make it obvious, I thought, he was just gonna be super passive aggressive. Like, I remember, I'm doing this because I remember. Like, you're gonna make no. I want you to remember that I remember, or know that I remember.
Yeah, and I say that because that's what Vince is. Vince is that dude whose viciousness, no matter how it's interpreted by us on the outside, is seen as declaration of love and respect. Like, look at even Triple H. He mentioned during an Ariel Helwani interview that when Brock left, it was because Vince has a relationship with wrestlers, and wrestlers have a relationship with me, and they remember me as the guy they used to compete with, not as the administrator that's trying to get them money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Tony
different.
has to make that
It's
leap.
different and the same with Triple H and Tony, because they're going to just have to outgrow. They're going to have to. 10 years are going to have to go by, and all those guys are gone, and the only ones that are there are the ones that know you as boss, and not. It's obviously a little different because Triple H wrestled those guys and competed against them and all those things. But if talking about Tony and the fun boss got to go, yeah, you might just have to not be a fan of the guys he's signing.
Well, see, I disagree. I think he can still do it. But the thing that's going to damn him as long as he owns his company, which he says he's going to do as long as he wants to have that alternative product, is you can't have 3 executive vice presidents that are active wrestlers. The thing that helped with Cody before everything went to crap was Cody was like looking, per people who were reporting at the time, and per whispers at the time, like Cody was looking to be like his dad, be the Booker man. But then when that got taken away, that was one of the reasons he left. That would have been the guy you could lean on here, because Cody could be in, if he had been on that same trajectory, he could have been that guy that's like on 1 foot out the door, and you got that Triple H factor of, this isn't a guy I'm competing with, this is a guy who actively removed himself from the main event, made an entire universe so that way you don't have to worry about him taking your spot. With the Bucks and Kenny, at any given time, they're like FTR said, you're booking me, we've been booked for like 8 months as #1 contenders, we ain't get no match. We got every other title in every other company in the world, but we can't get the one we're the main company for.
Yeah.
The one we have contracts with, and like,
I'm saying.
ongoing yearly.
And you know, I know you guys probably have other things in the show's about to start, but the last thing I wanted to throw out was people have to get out their heads. Like Cam talked about, like he's the happy boss, but the one thing Tony is and Vince is, he's still a billionaire that knows how to close stuff. Because if you just take it out as a billionaire who owns a company that bought another company so you have nowhere else to work, that works for both of them now. Because before, Ring of Honor would have been the Young Bucks place if they had to leave. Now, there ain't no Ring of Honor. There ain't no New Japan affiliation. You come to AEW, you don't come at all. Pause.
Yeah, well said. And we'll get into some more during VIP. So, yeah, if you're listening to this in podcast form, once we're done here, click over and listen to Rich and I go for another hour or two talking about all kinds of stuff, obviously.
There you go.
We'll be talking more about this. So, if you're VIP, please click over, give us a listen. That does it for us this week. I'm sure, like everybody else, very excited to see this first.
About to tune into this Dynamite, baby.
Minutes of Dynamite, and I wouldn't be surprised if that first 15 minutes does some serious numbers when the ratings come out. So that'll be interesting. So we're out of here. Appreciate everybody that called in, email. Oh shit, we didn't get to Jabron's 3 damn emails. Sorry, Jabron.
See you next week.
we was talking. We'll get at y'all next week. So Cam, for all the callers and shit.
Muted.
We'll get at y'all next time.
All right, I'll be back tomorrow, Friday night, doing that regular thing because we're back on that. We'll see what Tony talked about. We'll get some initial reaction. Matter of fact, might jump back on tonight. I'll let y'all know. All right.